Welcome to the future. This is Ina Braxton from the Digital Future Lab, and you're listening to our weekly DFL podcast, where we cover the state of the gaming industry, technology, and diversity. Here are your hosts, Samantha Riley and Jesus Govella.
Hello and welcome to the DFL podcast. I'm Jesus.
And I'm Samantha.
And today we have a special guest, Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I'm a new intern at the DFL. I am the community and project manager.
And she will be joining us kind of off and on the podcast here since she is a part of the community management team. So you will definitely get familiar with her voice and being a part of our discussions.
Yep. And today's discussion is about in-game microtransactions and loot boxes in games. So we'll start off with talking about just the different types of microtransactions these games provide. So cosmetic versus pay to win. Cosmetics, as the name implies, it's items that are purely cosmetic. They make you look cooler. Doesn't give you an advantage at all. It's just there if you want it. Versus the, I guess, pay to win is one term for it. These actually give you an advantage in the game, and it's usually looked down upon to buy these things. If it's like a multiplayer, like versus type game. If it's solo, then it doesn't really matter.
Because you're kind of like, you're paying to become higher in the game, so it's not because of your skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Do we know, maybe we can share some examples of games that we've played or seen where this is really common, like cosmetic or the pay-to-win games?
I know one off the top of my head right now is Overwatch. That has loot boxes in it, but they're all cosmetic. Every single item is cosmetic, so everyone's pretty cool with those.
What was that game that was super popular that you had to match the tiles together? A lot of times you only have a certain amount of chances to have moves, and so you can buy more moves, and that's an example of like a pay to win. And so that's like a lot of, on mobile app games, there's a lot of those options.
Yeah, a lot of mobile games do that.
I know even like, not even games, but just apps like Bitmoji. You can pay for more outfits, like for your character, And I've seen that a lot. Or even back in the day when Facebook games were, I don't even think they exist anymore. Yeah, but Farmville. I remember that. I was into that, and I played it. And like, if you ran out of land or something, you can like buy more land, And then it obviously cost money for that. And being 12 years old, I don't know if I necessarily wanted to pay for that.
Yeah. Those are examples of more like single player stuff. So most people are okay with that. But another example would be something like, I think one of the Star Wars games, I'm not sure which one, but it's one of the more recent ones. Those loot boxes actually have items that help you in the game, and the game is it's player versus player, so you're actually fighting against each other, and a lot of people see that as kind of unfair. It's because if you pay more, then you have better stuff, so you're more likely to win.
I can see that being, like, that could easily rank up a huge cost, though, because if you're playing against each other, one person buys some sort of power or something to advance in the game, and the other person fights back, and they continue, and then they'll consistently add to the tab.
Yeah. And it's usually, $2 or $3. It's usually pretty small, but the people come back to it and buy a lot of them.
Yeah, I think the problem lies in it is that even though we, as young adults, are responsible for whatever we purchase in in-app games, what happens if like children are playing your games on the phone or just online? How do you monitor if they're using their parents' credit cards? And so actually there was an article out by BBC, and the title was, "My son spent 3,160 euros in one game." And it talks about how there's different instances of young players on these video games that are using their parents' credit cards and racking up huge debts on buying these cosmetic or play-to-win loot boxes, they're called, yes? And so it goes into the question of who's responsible? Is it the parents that are not really guarding their credit card information, or is it the game developers and the design of the game and kind of tricking little kids or younger audiences into buying these loot boxes?
Yeah, we can go into, I guess, younger players using their parents' credit cards. I know when I was younger, I was asked my parents whenever I wanted to buy something for a game, and I always told them how much it was, and they were usually okay with it.
I feel like the difference between these ads, people who sell things to kids, they're targeting the young children because they know the parents have the money. And children's buying power is so strong, because as soon as you tell your parents, I want that, and you're nagging in the store, parents want to, make their kids calm and do whatever they need to, give them the toys they need to, stay focused on something so they're not, running around all day. So I get that, but then I feel like the main difference is with the TV ad, there is no way to get that without your parents' permission. You have to ask your mom and dad to call. But with these games, if in the article it said a mom was in the same room as her son, and she was kind of looking over occasionally, and then she checked the bill at the end of the month, and it was over $100 or euros in this case. But just because she's not able to monitor it, even though it's right in front of her, because I feel like the marketers, in a way, they are trying to trick kids, because there's small tabs in the corner that you can easily click on. And to a young child, especially if they're 4 or 5 years old, they don't know the difference between looking at an ad versus a cool feature that the game comes with. They don't know the difference between that.
A lot of the time when, I remember when I was younger, I had no concept of money and how that worked. And so when you click on these, visually appealing purchases in your game, you want your character to look really cool, for example. And so once you purchase it, you don't understand that it's actual money from your parents' credit card. And so it's really up to the game developers and being responsible in how they view their audiences and who's going to be playing their games. And for example, Google Play has a disclaimer about kids using their parents' bank account without permission, but I feel like there should be more of a moral responsibility of making sure that these just vulnerable children are not subject to clicking on their ads or buying these in-game purchases.
Yeah, I also saw in the article that a mom, a lot of instances, the parents will find out and they'll see it on their bank statement, and they'll go and reach out to these game companies and ask them if they can refund them. And a number one response is, you should have known. You should have known that your child was doing this. But I think that's just their excuse. You should have known. But they're tempting these children, and they're telling parents, well, sorry, you should have known. It said right there, costs $2.99. But what does a child really see $2.99, or do they see the shiny, armor that they can put on their character?
Yeah, and especially if they, a lot of games will use their own currency. They'll translate $3 into 1,000 coins or something like that. And I think that can be even more confusing to a young player.
So I guess this will bring up the question, are loot boxes gambling?
Yeah, because it's basically, you pay $5 for 5. They're usually about $1 each. And they get you about, at least in Overwatch, they get you 4 items. Yeah. And they can range from common to rare, legendary. So it really is pretty much like doing the slots.
I mean, similarly, we have Chuck E. Cheese or Dave & Buster's, and where people buy these tokens, and it's almost as if it's like a casino for little kids. And so, but the thing is, like, there's a difference in this, and where there is parent supervision most of the time, hopefully, when, you know, they bring their kids to these arcade games. But because it's online, and a lot of times, like Samantha was saying, that the parents would be in the same room as these kids, but yet they're still buying them because it's just so easy to do it with the click of a button. It's really hard for online gaming or like digital apps to really monitor that. And so it's a different platform. And so I think it would be definitely on the track of, like, it is gambling for little kids, and so it should be monitored a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I've even seen, like, the amount that, like, before, like we said, the Chuck E. Cheese example, going to Chuck E. Cheese, like, I remember as a kid, that's a privilege. Yeah. Like, that is the best day of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And birthday parties there and everything.
Yeah, like, it was you waited a whole month to get to go there.
Yeah.
But then with, like, all the digital media, and there's so many apps there, I know a lot of kids probably play these games every single day. Mm-hmm. And so they're so used to seeing all of these images. Mm-hmm. So I guess, in a sense, it is kind of like gambling.
Yeah. And it kind of, there's been a few studies, I think, that have been like, you know how the slot machines or casino games usually try to get you to feel like a thrill of not knowing what you're going to get. So that's something the loot boxes provide, definitely, because you buy like 20 of them for $20. You have absolutely no idea what you're going to get out of them. Mm-hmm. It could be pretty good or pretty bad. You don't know until you open them.
What is it? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
So, what do you guys think the parents could do? Because even though I know we've been kind of following the theme that it is a responsibility of the game developers and people behind the whole marketing aspect, but what could the parents do to maybe alleviate these issues?
I know a lot of these problems occur because they save their credit card for later use to make it easy, but that just leads to these problems, or your kids could just use your credit card without you knowing, or without having to like confirm anything. They just use it.
I know, like with Apple products, there you can sync up all of your devices if you have everything connected to your Apple ID, and for all of those, if everything is synced, that makes it really hard because your password's already inputted in there. But then I know, like, the whole Touch ID thing, that has a lot of controversy since it comes out, but the benefit of that is your child's fingerprint is not going to work to purchase that item, so they need your Touch ID. So that's something I'm thinking about, like, if you had a lot of young kids, you can make sure you have Touch ID on there, so they would have to ask you in order to get it.
Yeah. Also, just the basic probably solution is just talking to your children first before you expose them to, like, online gaming or things like that. And making them understand that it's real money that they're using if they want to spend money, and also just asking for permission is always the first step, and making sure that they're aware that there are consequences to their actions, even if it seems like a really small button to push. Like, they should be more aware of just being careful about spending and what that entails.
Yeah, pretty much I agree with what both you said, but mainly more towards what Samantha said about just put some sort of confirmation, like a Face ID, fingerprint, password, something, or a code even, just whenever you buy something, because it'll save you the trouble of accidentally buying something, or your kid accidentally buying something.
Right, and I also think, I know a lot of people don't check their bank account statement, and they don't really notice anything unless a big amount is taken out. But that's something, if you have young children that have access to your devices, maybe that'd be good to check up on it. I don't know if that's every couple days or once a week, because the sooner you if you do have an issue where you need to try to issue a refund, the sooner you try to take care of the problem, the more likely it will be taken care of. Because if it's like 2 months later and your child's already played through all the rounds, they're probably not as likely going to give a refund. Whereas if you did it like 2 days after it happened.
Yeah, and it's for loot boxes specifically, it can be pretty tough to get a refund, because if you open them, then you already know what you got, you already have them, and they can't exactly take them away. So I'm pretty sure most loot boxes aren't refundable.
Yeah. But I do like the practice of you checking your bank account statement. I mean, it's good practice in general anyways, but catching that earlier rather than having to find it out like 2 months later that your son racked up a $2,000 bill. That's, definitely good practice.
And I'm also thinking, like, what about age? Because I know we're talking about young kids in general, but I mean, going from maybe 4 years old to all the way to 18 years old, where you're still kind of under your parents' roof, where they're taking care of you. Like, how does age play a role in these different prices in games?
I think our generation, we kind of, towards the earlier side of gaming, there weren't loot boxes, there weren't too many in-game transactions that you could do. It was mainly just like huge add-ons to games, and they were pretty significant. But now there's so much more of the little transactions, so I think that has a pretty big role to play in it. And the fact that young kids today grow up with a lot of iPhones, iPads, a lot more video game systems are available now. I think that plays a huge role in this.
I think that children age probably, from 4 to, I wouldn't even say 16. I think you're starting high school. I think you have a better idea of like the responsibility of money and how to really manage going through these different pop-up incentives of games, and understanding that, if you click this button, that means that you're going to be charged for it. So I think from the age of 14 to 16, there should be extra just precaution from parents and also game developers to combat this, like this gambling or this in-app purchases. But after 16, I think most gamers hopefully are well aware of like the consequences of buying these things. So, yeah.
I've even seen this like with the whole age thing with really young kids, not with games, but on YouTube. Any video you click on, there's an ad right below it usually to some website. And I've seen like when I used to babysit kids, you put on Baby Shark so they can fall asleep. And then like 2 minutes later, I look over and there's like a Toys R Us ad that they pulled up. And then something like that where, because if you are 14 through 16, of course, like you should be able to talk to your kids and tell them. And if they're not listening, that's probably just them being, what's the word? Devious. They're not listening. Yeah. But then when you're super young, like where you're just using like an audio clip to make your child fall asleep, and then somehow an ad is clicked on and accidentally bought because their hand slipped or something, like that's something like, how are parents really able to control that? It's like, it's almost like these different systems are discouraging us from using it because we're getting all this money spent that we don't want to be spent.
I think the responsibility really lies on game developers, and when they're designing these new games, of thinking about user interface and user experience, and making sure that they're keeping in mind about the younger audiences that may play their games. And that would be a discussion for like even the DFL. Who do we want in-app game purchases? Probably not, but
that's true. Yeah. I mean, even when Seed gets released, like I'm sure that will be a side of it where maybe we'll want cool features. You can, I don't know, like up the speed of one of the characters or something. But like I would definitely say like we'd want to be careful. I wouldn't want to be known as an app that's, that's trying to take all your money.
Yeah, and there's definitely some games that go over the top like they build around having people buy stuff in their game.
I used to download some iPhone games just for fun, and I noticed a lot of those iPhone games tend to have, they advertise as free in the App Store, but then once you get to the game, there's only a certain amount of levels you can go through before you have to buy something in order to enjoy the game, or else you only get access like the first 10 levels. That's what I've noticed. Like, there's not really any free iPhone games anymore, so it kind of seems like nothing is free anymore. Like, there always has to be some sort of purchase.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of free-to-play games too that do something similar. It's free to start, free to download. You don't have to buy anything, but they offer in-app purchases or in-game purchases to either like level up quicker or get this item you can't get by playing normally, and stuff like that.
So for our listeners listening today, be careful about your in-app purchases and those attractive buttons to customize your avatar.
Yes. Just because it looks cool does not mean you need it.
Yeah, but I can speak from personal experience too. For the games you play a lot, and with your friends, if your friends play them a lot too, that can influence you a lot too.
Oh, because you want to put on the outfit so your friends can see.
Yeah, and if your friends buy something, you're more inclined to buy it too.
Right.
Yeah, I can definitely say I've spent more than I want to say in a few games.
Don't be a victim.
Well, it's just a warning. But what's our final verdict for this? Like, answering the question that who really is responsible for these games, and then we'll start to wrap up our discussion.
What do you think, Jesus, first?
I think it's the responsibility shared, between the parents and the developers, or whoever makes the microtransaction decisions. The parents need to talk with their kids about buying things, just in general, like even buying things that aren't video games, and know the importance of money at a young age.
Yeah.
And also the developers need to be wary about how they can influence kids too, and to not throw these microtransactions into the kid's face the whole time.
Yeah, I would just say that it is definitely the parents' responsibility to instill this precaution for their children to be wary about these things, but you can only really reprimand them so far. It's really, I think, on the game developers end, because they're the ones that kind of put it there in the game, and ultimately children play these games for fun, and they don't understand that there may be ulterior motives of such big companies to do this. And so I think it's more of the moral responsibility of game development companies to really not have these in the first place, because the end goal of their game is to have fun and to be played by all audiences. So
yeah. I completely agree with that, because although yes, parents can be a little bit better. I mean, I'm not speaking for all parents, but like making sure your kids know the importance of money and everything. But I do think that it is on the game developers. They are making these games for the kids, and they're targeting the kids, so they shouldn't be trying to take all the money from them. Because kids will be kids; they're gonna play the games regardless.
Yeah. When working with like a vulnerable audience, you have to understand that there are consequences to creating these types of pop-up buttons that could be detrimental to even their family financially.
Yeah. I mean, we can get really deep into it.
Yeah.
Like their kids put their parents in debt or something.
Yeah. Those are extreme cases, but it still happens.
Yeah. And I do see the reason these microtransactions sometimes need to be in of some games, like for the free-to-play ones. They have to make money somehow, but
yeah.
There are some games that you have to pay for and they have microtransactions in them, and that usually is seen as very greedy.
Yeah.
Because you have the entrance fee, and then there's more stuff inside to buy.
So we'll start to wrap up our discussion. Thanks for listening. And if anyone has opinions on maybe you disagree with us, let us know.
On a quick note, thank you for Samantha and Jesus for letting me on the podcast for my first time. It's been really fun.
Oh, and thank you for being here. And she'll be back soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
In a few weeks, I'm sure.
Awesome. Would love to be.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. You can check out our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We post various images, videos, just fun stuff of what we do around here. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our discussion. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Digital Future Lab and on Twitter at DFL_studios. Tune in next time for more on games, technology, and diversity.